Thank you very much, Mr. Adegbiru. Um, Maybe you should remain on the high table because we are going straight to the panel discussion, Mr. Adegbiru. So while we wait for him to take his seat, we would like to invite to the high table the panelists for today's discussion. The first person is Miss Olufumilola Ayola. She's a credit and marketing and relationship professional, and she ran for the Sulere House of Reps on the platform of YPP. Please make welcome, Ms. Fumilola. Thank you. Then the next panelist is Barrister Chima Nnaji. He's a public analyst and principal counsel, Chima E. Nnaji and Co. Please, a round of applause. And our third panelist, and certainly not the last or the least, Barrister Ike Onwebu, Managing Director and CEO of IRSARealestate.com. A round of applause, please.
Thank you, Francis. We are appreciative of time challenge. Lost some time in the process of this event. We do our possible best to recoup lost grounds to ensure that we all exit in the appropriate time to avoid the usual Victoria land traffic. The panel members have been introduced, so there's no need to repeat the obvious. What is before us this afternoon is to take a look at the electoral process in Nigeria and see what guidelines can come from the panelists on how to improve the electoral environment in Nigeria. Before election and after election, what is common in the environment are legal tussles. It seems the electoral process is more of a business for lawyers because they seem to be the only learned people. So to set the tone for conversation at this event, I'll be relying for introduction on the two lawyers on the panel, Chima and Ike. Ike, maybe you want to set the ball rolling. What really constitutes corruption in the electoral process? Because when you mention corruption, what comes ready to mind is money. But beyond money, what really are we talking about when we talk of corruption in the electoral process as a challenge? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Basically, when you look at the word corruption, it has a lot of legs and hands. It's not just corruption through inducement of money or any other thing. The process which the speaker, I think he is the no speaker, what he said, if you pay attention to that, he did mention that the corruption starts from the party itself. How do they train up these people that actually want to govern us? That's the question. Another question is who actually identify these people that want to be the leader? So that gets us to knowing fully well that the process is flawed, and that in itself is corruption. Because when the process does not have rules of engagement, anything goes. You are talking about corruption at its best. Another method of corruption that we can actually talk about is the one that we all know, which is using your office as a means to reach yourself. That is very known all over. Everybody knows that an average Nigerian seems to see his office as a way of getting rich. And that is very wrong. You see, I happen to come from a different rule of thought. Your position, you are put in a certain position to actually strengthen that institution, to make a mark, not for personal gain. And because there are no consequences, there are no consequences. People intend to do these things and get away with it without minding what um, might be the consequences that goes with it. So we need to introduce a stricter law that deals with those who uses their office or offices in this case to perpetuate crime and inducement. So that's what I can say in that regard.
Thank you very much, Ake. Chima, what's your perspective on this?
Well, the term corruption is a very, very wide term. It's a word that has acquired some emotive complexities, such that even people in government, while they are also basking in the very worst form of what they claim to fight, are also vaunting it publicly that they are fighting corruption, without understanding what corruption really is. Because even with all the effort of the government of the day and those in the past, and the pretensions that corruption is being fought, no government has ever defined what corruption is. The only definition that is gleaned from their action is that they want or seek to put people in jail because say they misappropriated funds. That is just an aspect where you converted public fund perhaps for personal use or ingratiate your friends. But corruption is a wider word which means, in a nutshell, when you unlawfully game a system, you unlawfully game a system, you unlawfully change the context and the content of what a system has been understood to be. I'm trying to make it a little bit pedestrian without going to what even the ICPC law tried to define as corruption. If, for example, this water is said for people on the high table, and in an attempt to replicate the water to reach other people or yourself, you take part of it and add water that is not maybe bottled water. You have corrupted this water because it's no longer the original intention of the people who kept these things, that this water should reach those people. So when you abuse a system to ingratiate yourself, it is corruption. When you use public patrimony to benefit an exclusive group to which you belong, only on the ground that they are your members or they are your brothers or your sisters, to the exclusion of other people who are equally entitled, that is corruption. To this extent, ethnicity, religious bigotry, cultism, all these are forms of corruption. Because when you are a member of a particular group, when they bring something for the entire people, you share it amongst your own, and then deny others. And we see it even in government and even in the present day government. It's unfortunate that Bolaji had left. I had wanted to, he knows that I hit them hard on television, because when you say you are fighting corruption and you are fixated only on the financial aspect, without realizing that those other ones that are the ones that lead people to the terminal end of visible corruption. If you graduate from the university, 14 of you from different parts of this country, 4 who maybe did not do well in the university as much as you did, get executive positions on their first appointment, and you are roaming the streets for 14 years thereafter, perhaps, or maybe let me not make it to maybe 2 years thereafter, there is an employment opportunity, you apply and you are being interviewed by that person that you were better in every respect academically, and he was going to determine your fate. You need the job, so you swallow your ego. When you come to that system, will you give your best? You can't give your best. But because of that process, they will drive you to get the best of you to keep the other man on the job. That is corruption. If you see an opportunity, therefore, to hit back at the system, stealing money, tardiness at the job, absenteeism, all these are manifestations of the core element of corruption. So when you're talking about financial corruption, it's just the final and terminal, and most visible aspect of corruption.
Chima, I think we come back to you
Very well.
more on that. Can we ask brother who has been a vested interest or a victim in the process, or somebody who has gone through the experience or through a corruptive channel? From your experience in electioneering and contesting, what then comes to you as corruptive tendencies within the system?
Thank you very much. See, the truth of the matter is that when I started the process of running for election, I never knew that Nigeria was as corrupt. You know, when you say people are corrupt, you find out that this corruption is not about the government. When Professor Owasani was talking, I was waiting for him to mention the public, because the most corrupt part of Nigerians are the people. Now, I think the problem is that we take our leaders out of the people. And so, whatever happens, if you have 95 corrupt people and you need to choose 10, there are 100 people, you need to choose 10. The chances of getting more corrupt people than uncorrupt people is much higher. So, the corruption doesn't start from up, it starts from down here. And I'm talking about the taxi driver who's giving you a ride. The day is raining. Instead of him collecting the usual fare of 1,000, he knows you're at his mercy, so he collects 3,000 naira. That is where corruption. People, like he said, people want to game the system. So every opportunity to take, Nigerians are net takers. So every opportunity to take and to steal, constantly taking out of people, we take advantage of it. Constantly taking advantage of ourselves, to hurt ourselves. And that for me is the highest form of corruption. Any opportunity you have to take advantage of people, somebody is in dire straits, he needs to sell his car. That's the day you would offer him to buy the car at some completely useless amount of. That is where corruption starts.
Thank you very much, Funola. She has hit on a very hot nail, and that takes me back to Chima. The issue of the leaders and followers. Who is really guilty? Who is really at fault? We point accusing fingers at the leaders, but she is sitting that even the larger society, possibility exists that the larger society is more corrupt than the people who are looking at the top of the ladder. So between the followers and the leaders, where do we really put the blame concerning electoral malpractices and fraud in electioneering. Chima.
Very well. Let me very, very quickly, because my definition was an omnibus one. Now we narrow down to electoral corruption. I also contested as a gubernatorial candidate in 2007 under NDP. And why I did that, you find that they say, oh, you say you are preaching and this, that. Why don't you go and just like people got it, Ghanaian into it? Now, you know that you may not win in the sense of the Nigerian, but I saw, as a lawyer, I saw a technical opportunity where the PDP then did not have a deputy gubernatorial candidate because he was in EFCC. And the law, the constitution is that the ticket must be complete. So since there was not going to be PDP ticket, then the chances were that I would take it because of the configuration of politics in the East then, in Enugu then. What did we find? 24 hours to the election day, a PDP deputy governor candidate emerged. And that is why we say Iwu was Iwuruwuru. The system seems sanitized now because there's some kind of balancing of forces. But what we are saying is that when you go to politics, the impression is that you must grapple with the issue of corruption and that the people, like she said, are very corrupt themselves. I would like to slightly modify that statement because in the SR paradigm, there is a stimulus, there is a response. The stimulus is usually from the leaders. First, they keep you down so that you suffer poverty, so that whatever they offer you will have value. Imagine that the prof said that with biscuit, some people will, during this election, some people were being given 10,000 naira. Some people were given 5,000 naira. Some people were given 1,000 naira. Some also were promised. They were not given and will never get anything. It is somebody in a state of need. Let me say, if you are completely thirsty, if you see this water, you will follow me up and down. If you are thirsty, I'm not saying if your throat is dry, that one you can manage for 2 hours, 3 hours. But if you are really thirsty, just like dog, you can drag a dog up and down by showing it a beautiful bone. So the point is that it is the leadership that must take responsibility for the orchestrated level of poverty that drive people to be at the receiving end of corruption, not that the people themselves are necessarily corrupt. The average Nigerian is a very good person, highly spiritual. But even the pastors, not the high-fluting, flamboyant ones, even the pastors, and there are pastors in this hall, I believe, will do with a little twin if they have the opportunity. Like we used to say in those days when we were younger, that if the Catholic Church does not take the priest, they take care of the priest very well, he will convert the biscuit for Holy Communion to his breakfast. So the point I'm making is that the average Nigerian is not corrupt, but his circumstance. Take the instance of those who have worked, those who are grooming now as pensioners and so on. They dedicated themselves, they worked very hard. What is happening today? They can't even feed themselves. So the younger ones now say, I would rather not go this route. I will take care of myself. I will collect money, get sacked after 5 years working, go to prison 10 years and end up a billionaire. Which one do you think is better? That's the mindset of the average young person in Nigeria. They don't really mean it. Their circumstance pushes them to that. So the leadership we have must rise, and they don't have the knowledge to rise beyond what they are doing now. Let me just be brief.
Thank you very much. Ike,
That's kind of
let's have your perspective briefly, please.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Nigeria, very brief.
2-3 minutes.
Apparently. I intend to toe the line that you are talking about, which is that we need to hold our leaders accountable because I think the system is rigged against ordinary Nigerians, and they want us to be saying what she have just said, that the problem is us, while the problem is really not us. It's them. They are the one that have the constituted authority. It used to be in those days growing up, um, my mother would literally say that, listen, if any of you here have to be a thief, let it be that you are stealing my own money, not the public money. So there is this fear of touching what belongs to everybody. It looks to me that that has changed because it's more of a expediency to get into the government coffer to get the money and do whatever you want to do with it. Having said all that, I think we also need to begin to put some measures to deter these people from even getting closer to the front. It's only here in Nigeria where a governor has what they call a security vote, where the governor has his hands in the public fund. Everything's supposed to go through legislative. You don't just come in and appropriate funds anyhow you want it. So we need to begin to discourage, public officers having money around them because that is the main reason why they do whatever it takes to become either the governor or any of the elected positions. So those things need to be discouraged. That's my view on that.
I think we move forward, taking a look at another issue, and that is the democracy within the party. Happily for us, we have two members of the panel who have taken the risk in quotes to contest election, House of Rep and governorship. Can we take a look at the how can we deepen democracy within the parties so that we can ensure that the right candidates do emerge? Deepening party democracy. Let's say Fula, you are yet to contest election.
No, I'm not. I'm yet to
Okay.
contest. But I think this is a very serious topic. Since they have ventured into it, I think, like you rightly said, they might be in better position. But having said that, I just wanted to say little things in regards to that. Our political system in this country is very, very bad. Let's call it what it is. I call them special purpose vehicle because these are a group of guys who have come together, decide what to do, how to go about it, and then begin to cherry pick among themselves who will be what, who will be that. Now, there's what they call primary. That is fair. Primary, where you have uh, other people that want to contest for the election, you give them free and fair hands for them to, operate. But that's not what we're seeing here. What we are seeing, like everybody knows, Prof literally touched on that a little bit, is these guys have left politics into capture. Now, capturing in this case means they basically give themselves who will become what. And at the end of the day, it's those that the godfather in this case, which is a new word into our political lexicon, have made themselves to become emperors. So, for that purpose, the process that brought these people through their primary is completely flawed. And I think that needs to be looked into more. If you recall, in those days, don't forget that Chief Awolowo had a very clear system in which he picks the people he works with. First of all, they will look at your academic, your reasoning. Second of all, he would also begin to nurture you, which is what we call direct mentorship. And once he feels that you are somebody who can actually make a difference in people's life, he will begin to prompt you so that you can go and contest election. Not these days. Political parties, they don't do all that. All those institutions have been broken down. So we need to look more into it. But I will allow those who have actually contested to tell us their view.
Um, the truth of the matter, I think that the problem we have in Nigeria concerning the democratic process within the party is godfatherism. You have the person who's the godfather. I'll give an example of a friend of mine who ran for primaries the in the current popular party, and he won his primaries. But when the list got to Abuja, his name was nowhere. His name was nowhere on the list. The guy spent the next 1 month in Abuja running around, running everywhere, trying to pull all the strings. Now, what was the story? The story was that the Godfather didn't like him, and so on. I mean, although he won the primaries, his name did not get into the did not get into the list. Now, my party wasn't like that. We had a very democratic process in the YPP, and that's one of the reasons why in the YPP I had sit down, like he said, like Prof said earlier on. He said, look at the constitution of the party you want to be part of before you just jump into it. I sat and I looked at the YPP constitution, and you find out that there's so many things that were considered there: gender equality. They had a very good constitution that endeared a lot of people to come and be part of the process, and it was democratic enough. But in most parties today, it's a function of who can bring in the most money. Although to be honest, towards the end, towards the middle, after the primary, we had the problem of who can bring in the most money, trying to change some names because this person didn't have enough money to bring to the table. But I think that the problem is that is godfatherism. People kept on asking me, "What are you know? Why are you not joining APC?" And then APC people will come and tell me and join, come and line up. When is your turn? Care about what you have the capacity you can achieve or you can deliver. No, they only line up. There's a queue. Wait.
Let's not have any illusion about the fact of politics. Politics is not a dirty game, but has acquired some dirt because some dirty minds are the ones at the theater. Because after all, politics is a process by which resources are distributed and redistributed. It is a game of who gets what, when, and how. Because it deals with resources, there's competition about who is able to get what, when, and how, and what quantity of that which is available. In a system like ours, where winner takes all, and where politics is not based on any principle other than money, acquire money not even only for its own sake, but for the sake of using it to destabilize the system so that they know you are there. So politics ordinarily is not bad because whether we like it or not, those in politics will determine the lives and the comfort or discomfort otherwise of those who are not interested in politics. That is the tragedy of it. From the philosophical standpoint, Plato gave guidelines about leadership because when you talk about politics, you are talking about the process of recruiting leadership. The leadership must be knowledgeable. As a father, if your son that is 10 years knows better than you are, you can't father him. I don't know whether you understand what I mean. You can't father him because he will just go away and fend for himself. But you mentor and father or take care of children, whether mother or father, because they relative to yourself, you are more knowledgeable, even if they grow and become professors. As at that moment, you must take care of them because they are yet not that developed. But if you have somebody whose own mind is not developed, leading those who have cultivated their own mind, there's a very serious structural problem. And the philosophical injunction is that the unexamined mind, unexamined life is not worth living. And for you to have a good life, you must cultivate your mind. That's why we go to school. The person that you were when you were in primary school is not the person when you have gotten your PhD. And so nobody should see you fighting at the Ido market. You can walk away, leave this phone. Somebody say you like, leave it. Instead of saying, what can you do? So just before I am cut off, what I'm saying in essence is that it is the way we have played the politics and recruited our leaders because of primordial sentiments of religion, ethnicity, and so on, that we are all suffering together today. And we'll continue to do so until we address the fundamental issue of who is the best that should lead the polity.
Thank you, Chima, so that we can truly father our children. There's an issue that seems or is refusing to leave the system, and that's the rule of godfatherism, which I believe has challenged the democracy within the parties. South Korea seems to have found a solution to that. The Electoral Act in South Korea demands absolutely that public debate must be a feature of the political process in selecting candidates. And because of this act, charlatans have been money bags, charlatans, political figures who really have nothing to offer. Misfits, that's the right word. Charlatans have exited the system. They literally run away because they cannot feature in public debates. Will Nigeria need to copy or adopt this type of? I know the NGOs organize, the media organize public debates, but do we really need to institutionalize this? Before I come around to IK with the microphone to first have your perspective on this, it's a pleasure to formally welcome Mrs. Yetunde Taiwo Adekunle. It's a great pleasure to have you joining us in this conversation. We've had about 2-3 rounds. We are not too late. You can still chip in your perspective as we progress. Mrs. Yetunde Taiwo Adekunle is the pioneer and national president of the World Changers Youth Initiative. I believe not too old to run or not too young to run. We will definitely cherish your perspective on some of the issues that we are here to address because of this conversation. Apart from being president of the World Changers Youth Initiative, she's also the convener of Leadpreneur, an annual event which gathers hundreds of leaders and entrepreneurs brought together by her youth initiative, the TWCI. She's presently the spokesperson of Abundant Nigeria Newer Party in Lagos, ANRP. We're just finishing the rounds on deepening democracy within the parties. Maybe we use that as a welcome window for you to join this conversation. So before we go to the issue of institutionalizing public debate as part of the electoral process in Nigeria, maybe you want to spend a minute on your own vision to deepen democracy within the party structures. Thank you.
Okay. Apologies for coming late. If I get the topic for discussion, it says deepening democracy within the party. Sometimes back, I tried to make a research on and African or Nigerian democracy. And I was able to understand that Nigeria has not totally embraced full democracy. In that, in other countries, we have gender representation in form of like 50-50%, but Nigeria keep saying that they are going to, bring in the female gender in a more considerable percentage. It seems to me like more of mouth talk without action, because none of the political parties has been able to do what, to establish and prove this fact. Um, Different from what it is from the party I came from, Abandon Nigeria Renewal Party. We have a slot at least 40% for women, because only a political party that has embraced the participation of women has embraced democracy. Yes, we can't keep saying that we are practicing democracy, and most time, if just look at it, how many seats were clinched at the National Assembly and the Senate by women in the last election we just had? And sometimes I've had where some come up and the next thing they tell some women come on, they tell them that, oh, go and sit down and cook for your husband. Go and cook for your husband, because they have confined the assignment of women within the domestic, assignment. Now, first of all, political parties have to look into their own personal constitution and also review what they have. One of it is what I've just said now, that is including women in their own either a selected position or any other position, ESCO position and all that. Then political parties too have to uh, always create a free and fair level playing ground within the party, especially for their primary elections. Politics has become something that scare a lot of ordinary Nigerian away due to some things. Apart from maybe vote buying, we talk about bloodshedding. You see a place where some people are holding rallies, and after that, you record a lot of death cases. Especially, we had one in Lagos and other places. A free and fair level playing ground for all participants and all candidates. Democracy too has to do with a very good creating a very good condition and environment for your people. In other words, political parties also have to look at reducing buying of delegates, during their primary elections. Most times, it's so funny that people say, I vote for this party, but let them ask them to bring their membership card. They can't. But for my party, it's different. We even use a digital means of um, registering our members. We have over 50,000 members across Nigeria, and we have all their data in our HQ, that's our headquarters. I'm a member of social party. Bring out your membership card they don't have. Yet, these political parties have a lot of people voting for them. But who are their members? That's the question. So, most times during the primary elections, they buy delegates. This has to reduce if you want to really embrace democracy. A lot of things has to reduce. Like, I'll round up with this. They use the word consensus, sir. Consensus. But to them, they already know who they want to put there. And they are asking people to buy forms. And these forms are not few thousands, a lot of money you put in. At the end of the day, they tell you that we have a consensus candidate. Thank you.
So, okay, how do we remove charlatans from the political landscape?
Well, there are many ways to remove charlatans from the political process. You just cited the example of South Korea. To me, it's not like we don't have or we don't do debates. So debate is good when it's well, when they discuss